Hello, hello, and how are you? I hope you're well. It's been a busy day. I ended up helping with hosting a Zoom meeting for an hour. Lots of other bits and pieces, all sorts of stuff going on. I'm just going to bring my volume down ever so slightly because it's hitting into the red zone, which isn't good because it makes it loud in your ears when it does that. Anyway, I do have something I need to do that I've just realised I've forgotten to do, but that's okay. We'll sort that out right now when I close that and put that away too. There's so many things open on my computer. Oh my goodness. I think I'll just close my email program. I don't need that at the moment. I shouldn't be sitting here doing email while you're listening to me chatting to you. Now, please let me know if the volume is not loud enough, as long as you've actually still got the volume turned up on your headphones or whatever you're listening with. If you're set the way it normally is for you, let me know if I'm not coming through at your end, because then I can do something about it. So let's just find, okay, I've got the egg timer set up, and that goes for 6 minutes. Set, yay. Put that one there out of the way. And then the other one is the rocket. I've got two of them that I actually run from my computer instead of running from the internet, just because there were issues. Unfortunately, these things happen. And these are set up so I can use them for when we do points redemptions, channel point redemptions. I should call them pages, shouldn't I? Because my channel points are called pages. So there you go. So I'm just going to put a couple of things in chat over here. So if you are under 18, don't tell me. I don't want to know. I would like you to have got permission from some guardian type person who is allowed to give permission for you. Just moving my camera a moment. You're allowed to be here if you're 13 and over, and under 18 if you have a guardian with you, someone who is over 18 and is legally entitled to make this decision for you, just because that's the terms of engagement for Twitch. Now, I do read stories that are not specifically for children, but most of the stuff that I read is specifically written for children. I do have some safety protocols in place, like there are certain words that you can't use in my channel, just because it's not really a good idea to use those words when you're around grannies and their little grandkids, because often I am reading books that are suitable for reading to grannies and grandkids. It's just one of those things. So, sorry, I'm just checking my phone, making sure I've got the volume turned down. Yay. Why have I been tagged? Just someone has some very good news. They've been having trouble with getting onto a particular game, and they've only just been able to get permission to be registered for it because it's an invite only. Well, not invite only. You apply to be able to play this particular game, and then you have to say what it is about the way you do things that will suit the setting for their game, and then they will have a think about it and decide if they really want you to. And they got the permission for that. And then there's been some technical issues on the server that game is run from, which meant that anyone who didn't already have the game installed was having major problems with downloading and installing it. That particular part of the game that's required for doing it. So that's all sorted. They've just given me the news. Yay, awesome. And there is nothing else I need to check there. I have got my phone on general chatter over on our Discord server, just so that, I'm sure I say just a lot, so that if any of my regulars really need to let me know something because I've forgotten about it, such as forgetting to turn on chat in the stream, which I did just before I actually started talking, they can let me know over there, and because I see a notification over on my other monitor, it usually means it works okay. I can remember to do something about it. And one of my mods will be very, very happy to know I finally found the little thing that will show me only the what page points redemptions have been requested. There is a separate section to do that instead of it just being in amongst everything else. So I found that. I'm really pleased. Yay. All of that sort of stuff. Got the tech going, got the plug-in thingies going. I think that's about it. I'm hoping my volume is loud enough for you guys. I don't know. It should be, I guess. Right, so I should probably say hi to those of you who are new here, who haven't been here before. Hi, I'm Jev. I read old children's books, and the books I read are ones such as these. These are books of the sort that I grew up with. Really old. They've often got these illustrations on the cover, kind of like gold embossed into the pattern or the picture. Sometimes they'll be coloured, like these ones are. There's a little bit of that sort of like browny yellow colouring on this. This one doesn't have gold. This one has gold on the losing and binding, but on the L and the F, the initials. And then they have really cool spines like this, and that is with the gold imprint, and so is this got gold imprint in. Now, I grew up reading these sort of books because these were the books that were in the house. They were ones that had been given to my parents and to my grandparents and various aunts and uncles and things like this. So they were lying around or in boxes or tucked away on someone's shelves where they had been forgotten about and all that sort of thing. So if you wanted to read a book, you go and grab one. Have a rattle around on the shelves, have a look everywhere, see if there was anything that was appealing, of interest, and you'd sometimes end up reading a book that didn't seem at all interesting just because you'd read all the ones that you'd found so far, and then you'd find that it was actually a bit more interesting than you expected. Now, these, as I said, are just lying around home. They're the sort of books that were lying around my parents' place and my grandparents' place. But in other people's places, these would be in a museum. This is over 100 years old. This is 150 years old. Yeah, they would be. But in our house, no, they're just books. We read them. Now, if I'm not reading from a physical book like that, I'll be reading from a digital book like this. Now, this is a first generation iPad mini. Are you old enough to have seen the original iPad minis that came out? Well, this is one. It's a first generation. See, look, iPad. Not particularly big, so this is a mini. I like the minis, they're really cool. They're really nifty, handy, not too big. I mean, I like the other sizes too, but this is my favourite size because you can take it with you and it's only a bit bigger than a normal book without being super, super heavy. I like the portability. And this is what people like about books, is entertainment that you can take with you. And a lot of people now, their entertainment that they take with them is like this, on their phone. It's just one of those things. And it makes sense. I travelled overseas for a time, and I didn't take any physical books with me, even though I love reading books. Reading books if you're feeling a little bit displaced because you're doing lots of travel and it's just getting a little bit too much. You like traveling, but it's like you need something familiar. Reading books is a great way to do that because you can get thoroughly involved in the story and just give your brain the awareness of what's around you is allowed to be turned off for a short time. So that's what I did. But I used my phone instead of taking physical books with me. Part of that was because if you're going to be travelling for 4 months and you're carrying something like these with you, and each of these only takes you a few days to read, and you've got plenty of reading time in the evenings and stuff like that, because you don't necessarily have easy access to television or movies or anything like that, then you're going to be taking a lot of books with you. You'll be taking more than your own body weight of books with you, I would guess. Ask any other person who's a reader and also loves travelling. You cannot carry all the books that you want to take. And what happens if you take a whole lot of books with you and you took the wrong ones? You thought when you were choosing, before you left, that they were the right ones, and then you get wherever it is that you're going and it's really, really uncomfortable, and you discover that I don't really want to read that sort of book. I want to read that sort of book, which I went and left at home, and I know exactly where it is, but I can't get it because I'm hundreds or thousands of miles away, or kilometres, doesn't really matter. So what you can do instead is you can take your phone with you and have ebooks on it. You can either use something like a Kindle app on your phone, or you can have some other ebook reader on your phone. And you can do the same with something like an iPad mini. Now, the first generation is so old that you can't update it anymore. In fact, I can't even install any apps on it, because the apps that are available in the App Store don't work on the operating system on this. It is so old. They stopped doing updates to the operating system a long time ago, but the browser that was built into it as part of its actual operating system still works. So I can go to Project Gutenberg, and I shall give you the link for that, so you can do the same thing. I can go to Project Gutenberg and download ebooks from there. Project Gutenberg books are ones that are out of copyright, because the authors have been dead for so long that copyright law no longer applies. And I think that's really cool that you can actually read books that used to be copyright often, but they're available for free for you to download, or you can read them online. So I can go there on this, because the browser still works and it's safe enough for what I'm doing, turn on the internet just for while I'm downloading the book, download the book. When it's finished downloading, I then open the book in an app that is built into the operating system, so it doesn't need an update, it doesn't need to be installed separately, which I wouldn't be able to do, obviously. And when this is unlocked, come on, wakey wakey. Come on. It's taking a long time to start. It's stuck on the lock screen. Okay, we'll turn that off. Shut it, and then open it again. Oh, and there it's open. It's called iBooks. I should have realised that, or remembered that. It's this thing here, the orange one down here, called iBooks. It looks like a book. And that one still works, and it works for ebooks that you download from Project Gutenberg. So I've given you a link for Project Gutenberg. You can go and get your free supply of out of copyright ebooks. Not every out of copyright book in the world is there, obviously. It was the Project Gutenberg project was started in the States for digitizing books, American books, so that they could be accessed once they were out of their copyright. And they are still there. But they have continued to add books. So there are English books there. There are some New Zealand books there. They're not all works of fiction either. There's gardening books. There's agriculture books, books about farming animals and things like that. History books, all sorts of different things, as well as having fiction books. And they have sections, what they call bookshelves, where it will be focused on a certain thing. So I usually go to the one that is the children's literature section and look through there to see what ones they've got, unless I remember a particular author that I want to see if they have a book of theirs. So if I can find it there, great. If I can't, sometimes it's a little bit of extra work on my part to try and find it. So if I'm reading a book that I don't have a physical copy of and it is out of copyright, I will look at Project Gutenberg first. Now there are some other places around the world where you can get out of copyright books. Faded Pages is basically the Canadian version of that, and that was initiated for Canadian books specifically initially. They do actually have some books there that aren't Canadian books, but they're ones that have been published in their country of origin as well as in Canada, so there'll be a Canadian edition. Their copyright laws are possibly different to the American laws. The English copyright laws are different again. The New Zealand ones are different again. There are some books that I wanted to read to you that I can't read to you because even though they are out of copyright in New Zealand, which is where I live and where I am from, I cannot read them to you because where you live, they are probably still within copyright, and I don't think it's right to actually break copyright law. Why? Because somebody has put a lot of effort, time, money into the work. They have the right to make an income off it. If they are now dead, but the work is still within copyright, then their estate is entitled to receive the income from it. And the estate will often, especially like this particular instance I'm thinking of, between the estate trustees who organise it all and the publishers who issue this person's books, there is an agreement, it's a legal agreement, that the profits from selling those books through that publisher go back to the estate, and then they are distributed to up-and-coming authors. And I think that's a really good thing. So I'm not going to steal from these up-and-coming authors who may be able to get funding to be able to develop their skills and become well-known authors themselves. I'm just going to wait until it's the right time. Yes, it's disappointing, but that's okay. It's one of those things. So that's the sort of books I read, including the physical ones, the digital ones and the physical ones. I also, if I have specific express permission from the publisher or the author themselves, I will then read a book that is still within copyright, but I have to have the actual permission to do so. So I read, in the middle of the year, I read a book that was about Matariki, which is Māori New Year. And this year was the first year we observed it as a public holiday in New Zealand. It's like Northern Hemisphere New Year. It is in the middle of winter, which is where you've got a time of transition. You've got things dying off and things being reborn. People dying, people being born. You've got plants dying off, the leaves fall off the trees and all that sort of stuff. They appear to be dying. And then you have them putting out new shoots and things like that. So, Matariki is an observance of the new year. And we don't refer to it as a celebration, it is an observance. Celebration is part of it, but it's not the full focus. So with the observation of Matariki, what you do is you set aside time to remember those that have died in the last year, and to think fondly of them, to refresh your memories and all those things. Hi Squibble, great to have you here. Good to see you. Great, yeah, make sure you've got your toast and your tea. That's good. Got your snacks and your drinks. We haven't got to those yet, but we will be shortly. You snack away. I'm not saying you don't do it, sorry. I was meaning don't forget to do it. That's good. So part of it is this remembering those who we have lost, with sadness, but also celebrating the lives that they have had. So that is the passing on. Then we have also being together as family, as excuse me. Oh, right when I was going to say a Maori word, which I have to think a little bit before I say it because it's not a daily word for me. Excuse me. That's better. That was a weird one. Just an odd point in my throat. So, you get together with your family and your friends. You get together with your whānau, which is your family. But it's not just mum, dad and kids. It's extended family as well. And you spend time together looking at, that's part of the looking back at those who you've lost, and also looking forward to things that you wish to do in the future. Not just this year, but further into the future, planning maybe, anticipating, getting excited about the possibilities, but enjoying being together, celebrating being together with food, with stories, with music, with song and dance, all of that sort of stuff. That's the celebration part of it, is being together with whānau. Now whānau can be specifically as your extended family, But for the way people live these days, it can also be those who you've invited to be part of your family, i.e. those who are special friends who are significant in your life. And this is all part of the observance of Matariki. So I got sent this book as a lovely gift from our telecom provider, because we have a business account with them. I got some lovely handcrafted tea, some special chocolate, a tea ball for doing this tea because it's done with gathered native leaves and some other plant leaves as well, which all have special properties to them, things like that. And tea, chocolate, the book, tickets to a movie, which I didn't actually make it to, but it was meant to be a really, really good movie. It's a Māori, about the life of a particular Māori woman in New Zealand, and the things that she was able to help bring into being for modern Māori people, and also the impact that it has on others around who have any connection with those people. So it was this lovely parcel as a thank you and as part of the recognition of the first observance that we have in New Zealand as a public day, where no work, no going to your job or anything. It is a public official holiday. It was part of that, and so I actually contacted the publishers to see if I could read it out loud on stream for you folk, and they gave me the permission. They had to go and talk to some people, but they gave me the permission to do so, and also to put it up so it's available on YouTube. Now, it is available on YouTube, but it's not as a public video. It's as an unlisted video. I keep going to say private, but private means that it's only me who can see it. It's unlisted. So if you want to have a listen to that VOD, that video recording I did from one of these sort of sessions, I read the story, I showed the pictures, not highly detailed because someone's copyright is on those pictures, and I don't want anyone to be capturing in them and then printing them and then selling them. So no, I didn't do that with them, didn't have them scanned, I just held them up so they're not high quality. But you could see them, they were lovely illustrations. Read the story, but I also read out information about Matariki, the observance of it, things that you could specifically do yourself as part of that time of year. So, and that's all still there as part of that video, and I also have some links underneath the video to do with some of those activities you can do. Some of them are written for children, some of them are written for whole families and just people in general. So if you want to see that, you have to ask me for the link, or go and join our Discord server. Here you go. Nice little segue there. No, that one didn't work. Try that again. I thought I had a shortcut for that. I'm sure I do. I just don't know where it is. What it is. So my Discord server is very, very quiet. Occasionally somebody will say something there. So Jonathan shared a really, really neat YouTube link there, in not the main chat channel, but in the ideas, books, and something or other else. What do I call that section? Words, books, and ideas section. And it's worth going and having a watch of that video. It really is. It's about a project where they are saving diaries, personal diaries. Some of them are historic, some of them are just random people, ones that have been sent in. And it's the guy who initiated the project, along with a couple of other people, works at the British Museum, and these diaries that are being saved, and information about each diary is being put with the diaries and indexed so that people can access them. They're being saved so that people can find out about how people really lived, not what historians say about how they lived, but the real people in their own words, what they say about how they lived, what their opinions actually were about certain things that were going on at the time, instead of some pundit saying, some political person saying, oh, well, back in the day, this is what they all did and this is what they thought about that, which, if you've ever lived in a particular period of history when somebody else is spouting off about it, you'll often know that they haven't a clue. They're looking at the indication, what they think are the indications. If you lived there at the time, you will have memories of it that are quite different. But this is another joy of these diaries, is because there are diaries from a whole lot of diaries from similar time periods or even ones that overlap. They actually intermesh the information that's in them, and so you get lots of different opinions about the same thing, political things that were going on at the time. And also because they're actually people's diaries, they're dated properly, not someone looking back as an historian and saying, well, around then this is what was happening, and then someone wants them to narrow it down. So they'll say February 1776. And then somebody else will say, because of the different historic documents they know, no, it wasn't February 1776, it was November 1775. And they'll have this big argument about stuff. And there's no way of definitively proving it. But if it's from someone's personal diary that they wrote on the day it happened, you've got it. It's pinned down. You can't argue with that stuff the same way. It's also going to be a great resource for people who want to write books that are set in a certain time period. They'll be able to look at somebody's writings about what was going on, what was normal daily life, and put that realism into their stories. I think it's exciting. Go and watch the video. It's on YouTube. And what was really funny about it when I started watching it, it's this really old chap, or it comes across as really old chap, chatting away, and he's got this big white beard and white fluffy hair that's pulled back and all this sort of stuff, and he's quite chatty about the thing, and you're thinking, oh, this is going to be dry and boring, just because, old professor, you think it's going to be dry and boring, historian, dry and boring. And then he starts talking and he explains what the project is, why they started it, and what is really cool about it, and all these other things. And it's fascinating. It's worth a listen. I'm not going to tell you what the link is. Go and join my Discord server, which the link is in the chat over there. And then you can actually have a look for yourself. I've just realised that for some reason the chat doesn't seem to be turned on this channel. It should be. That's odd. Usually it will show me the chat scrolling on the screen over here. Because I had it set up so it came back on again, but I don't see it at the moment. How odd. Anyway, so if you are over on YouTube and you are wanting to know what I'm talking about, I have lots of links and stuff that are on my Twitch page. So this is my Twitch page, this link here that you can see, and it's also where you get to chat with me when I'm actually reading and chatting like this, and I often will respond as people are wanting to find out about stuff. And if you're on Twitch with me at the moment, or if you're watching the VOD and you can't be bothered clicking in the chat but you just want to know what it is, this is my YouTube channel, and this is where you'll find the playlists of the different books I have read in the past. I usually transfer the videos from here over to YouTube about 2 weeks after I read them, and so that they become available for anyone to see. I do have the first series of books, series of stories that I read are now unlisted because they are still within copyright. So they are the Millie Molly Mandy stories, all of the Millie Molly Mandy stories. Not in the sequence that she wrote them in or anything like that. They're just all in this playlist. So you'll need to come to the Discord server and find the link for that, or come and ask for the link for that, and then you can get it. So there's a couple of things like that where I've read books that were within copyright. They are now no longer publicly available on YouTube, but they have not been lost. You just will not be able to find the link for those books. But if you come and ask in the Discord server, then you will have access to them. So you're most welcome to come and ask. So come and join our Discord server. So if you're new here, still for the new people, I'm part of a group of readers of old books, of books that are no longer in copyright, public domain books. And this name of this group of readers is Codex. We are the Codex reading team. I am one of them. So I shall give you... Yes, the link worked. So the link I've just put into the chat is for the Twitch team. On the Twitch team, if you click on the link for that, it will show you who's currently live, and you can see who all the members are in the Codex reading team. We are all people who read books. So most of us also play games as well. I don't. That's just me. I have once now played a game online, but usually I just read. And also in the link, the other link, the second link in that chat comment is the Discord server for Codex. And that is a good idea to join it, because we have a book club. There's a book being read once a month. Usually, don't think we've got anything coming up this month. I was part of the last one, although I didn't actually stream it. I just hosted it, but I meant to relay it myself. I just haven't learned how to do that side of it yet. But I was part of the discussion. And there's possibly a VOD of that, I'm not sure. Anyway, so you can find out about what books are going to be read in the book club, what's coming up and all that sort of thing anytime you want by joining the Discord server. But also, if you stream yourself, or if you mod for anyone who streams, then join the Codex Discord server, even if you're not interested in finding out about any of the readers or getting into general conversations that we have over there or finding out about book club. If you mod or if you stream, join the Codex Discord server so that you can access our security channel. Our security channel has been written up with all sorts of information about how you can take care of your community by making sure that you don't have bots in your channel, sitting in your chat, spamming or stealing information, or gaining people's gifted subs. You don't need to have subs that are gifted to people in your community when they are, the so-and-so gifted 5 subs and then they're handed out randomly. The bots are equally eligible to receive those. You don't need that. That's unfair to those who are gifting that, who've put their time and money into giving those subs to your channel. So if you squash the bots, get out there and smash the bots, it's hardest the first time that you go through it, because there's all sorts of stuff that you're learning. So you just take it a chunk at a time, and you deal with a chunk of bots at a time. And then after that, usually you're only dealing with 1 or 2, and you've kind of learned what you're doing. I used to give out a particular link for a website which I use as a kind of a shortcut for checking if something is a bot, a user in chat is a bot. The problem with me giving that is people don't then go and follow up with the additional information to make sure that things stay safe. So I'm not giving out that link anymore. You have to go and find it for yourself in the security channel over in the Codex Discord server. There you go. Is that enough of a hook for you? Go on, do it. It's not going to cost you anything, because you can join Discord just like you can join Twitch and YouTube for free. Why not? And speaking of free, also you can follow me here. You can subscribe on YouTube as well as joining the Discord server. And then you'll be notified by the various services when I'm live and online. And yes, my Discord server does have an announcement when I go live. So why not? Go and do it. It's free. You can also give us a like on YouTube too, which is lovely, because then I know that people actually are listening to the stories, which is fun. I am going to give you, hang on, I just need to open this because it's kind of relevant. Not the opening of it, but that's fizzy drink. That's what we call it in New Zealand, fizzy drink. It's not pop, it's not soda, it's not Coke, which are all nicknames for it over in various parts of the States. A soft drink is the other name for it in New Zealand. Fizzy drinks, it often starts as a kid's name for it, and then we kind of, those of us adults who have fond memories of old terms for things will often still use it. Otherwise it's soft drink. Soft drink because hard drink is when it's got alcohol in it. Hard liquor, hard. Soft drink, fizzy drinks. And they're usually fizzy. That's why we call them fizzy drinks. So in New Zealand, lemonade is something like Sprite or 7-Up. Hi Jonathan, good to see you. No, I haven't yet actually given my 3 tips. I'm just about to. That's why I'm opening up fizzy drink bottles. Yes, I said bottles, plural. I've got 2 today, 2 bottles of fizzy drink. I better put the lid on that. They've been in the fridge, so hopefully this is going to work, kind of. Oh, that one's not going to show. So one of the drinks is dark and it won't show. These are meant to be colour changing tumblers. Colour change with cold, not heat. So this is my sarsaparilla, like I had last time, and that's meant to go sort of an orangey yellow. But because the drink inside is dark, it doesn't show as well. And I put ice in there to help. And this is lemon and pyroar, which is the stuff here, good lemony stuff. It was originally, Pyroar is a place in southeast of Auckland, our biggest city, and it's a small town, kind of, if you were elsewhere you'd call it a village, and they produced mineral water from artesian water, and what they did to just make it a nicer drink is they would put lemon juice with it and some sugar, obviously. And so they came up with the original of L&P, lemon and pyroar. So that's what we call it, is L&P. A lot of our international students who used to come and board with us and go to the local secondary school initially was like, not so sure about this. And then most of them, in fact, I don't know any that didn't, actually said it was their favourite drink by the time they left here. It's not as in your face as, say, root beer or sarsaparilla or Coke or something like that. But it's not as bland as lemonade. So lemonade in New Zealand is like 7-Up or Sprite elsewhere. You can do homemade lemonade, but lemonade for most of us is fizzy. It's a fizzy drink. Not a Real Dad's saying drinks like 7-Up can even be called cider in some parts of the world. Yes. Now, hard cider is alcoholic cider. So most New Zealanders, when we talk about cider, that's what we're talking about. I grew up spending some time in Canada with relatives over there, and some of the relatives used to make cider. As a child, you were allowed a sip because it was hard cider, because they had brewed it themselves. It was not quite the same as what they would have called soft cider, which is unfermented apple juice. Anyway, so just out of interest. So here's the 3 tips for those of you who are new here. Get drinks, get snacks, and get comfy. So I'm just getting drinks. Always, when I'm streaming, I have water, because your brain and your body need water. And if you're reading out loud, water helps a lot with your voice. I don't drink from this when I'm on stream because it tips over really, really easily, but I love it. It looks gorgeous. I usually drink from something that doesn't tip over quite as easily and holds a lot more water. So that will be this. If you see me slurping away, if you hit the hydrate button for a page's redemption, this is usually what you'll see me drink from. And I do it with the straw type because I don't really like going like this in front of the screen all the time. It's a bit weird. I know how other people happily would do that, but whatever. So today I am currently drinking L&P. So when you get drinks, you don't have to just get water. Water is always good, but get yourself something really yummy too. The weather's warming up here, so I'm doing this and also showing off my cool new colour change mugs. This cup was all that colour until I put the ice and the cold L&P in it. So, second tip is get snacks. So what snacks have we got today? Let's have a look in the cauldron. I'll just move Quest Sprout and get my Halloween cauldron of sweets. I told you I said that, didn't I? Sweets. I lived in England for 4 years and I came back calling lollies sweets. I actually meant to say I'll get my cauldron of lollies because that's what we call them in New Zealand. And Americans call it candy. Candy is just different. Anyway, so in here, in this cool little plastic cauldron, I did have a lovely bag of unwrapped, chewy, kind of chewy lollies, which I really like, the ones that are the gel type ones, but I didn't want to open it because we've got a real problem with ants at the moment and the ants would get into it. So most of the lollies I've been eating out of here up until now have been ones where individually they're wrapped, And I thought, well, how am I going to eat these other ones? How am I going to open that and not get the ants going to the packet? I solved it last night with these little pots that I have and some little Bon Mama jam jars that I've got. So there they are. I've got them all in there. I'm not going to eat all of them, but I just thought I'll just get a bunch of them, put them in pots, and then I can have them whenever I want and not worry about those bloomin' ants. So I've got 6 of these little pots, which have got 2 or 3 in each one. I've got 2 little mini jam jars, all sorts of cute little containers. And then I've got these ones. And I think these are meant to be, the Bon Maman jam jars. Bon Maman is a French company that makes jams and jellies. And they have big versions of these jars. But you can buy these mini ones as a multi-pack. Often they're done sort of around Christmas time, and so they'll have different sorts of marmalade and various jams. Their strawberry jam is so yum. But also they're available commercially in these size jars for places that are high-end hotels where you go and you order your toast for breakfast and they provide the jam to go with your toast, and it will come in a little jar. And they don't actually, most of those hotels do not reuse the same jars. They buy them commercially, and so therefore they're sealed and sterile. So Squabble says she stashes all her paint pigments in those little jars. They're brilliant because they are proper jam jars with a metal lid and a little mini rubber seal under the lid. And so they'd be brilliant for pigments. That homemade paint that you're doing, the one that was done in the shell when you redo it, I'm thinking something like this would be a good idea. But you might want to coat the inside of the lid with some wax so that the vinegar that's in the solution that's being made and the compound that's being made or who's activated it is not going to go through the metal of the lid. Just a wee thought. Oh, you have a plan for that. Oh, that's good. So Not a Real Dad saying same for portions when things come in just huge bags and you want to keep them fresh. Absolutely. Break them down into small containers, ones that seal well to keep things fresh. It'll take another few months to sort out though. No, that's fine. I understand. And then there's these ones which are basically, my green screen's doing weird things with the lid of that because it's a green lid. I'll just put the pink one up. Don't like the colour. So Sistema is a New Zealand brand. Sistema. Some of you, even if you're not Kiwis, may recognise that brand because we export it around the world. And did you Kiwis know that? Sistema, New Zealand Sistema, gets exported around the world. How about that? It's so cool. We're just so proud of ourselves. We're a very small nation and we're on the ends of the earth. We're surrounded by 1,000 miles of water in any direction. You can't drive to any of the neighbours. You have to either get in a boat or get in a plane. And so because we feel like we're so far away from everywhere and we don't have a huge population really, we feel overlooked often. And so when we find out something about ourselves, they're doing our something here, we're quite proud of it. In fact, that was used as an advertising line for a particular brand of New Zealand beer, Steinlager, which also were the sponsors of the racing yacht, and also it was something different. So Steinlager beer, one of their advertising lines was they would actually have people in different parts of the world with doing something, I don't know, touristy or whatever, and often with one of the Steinlager beer bottles or something like that, and they'd say, they're drinking our beer here. And it would be somewhere iconic, like you'd see the Tower of London or Tower Bridge, you'd see the Eiffel Tower or the Norwegian fjords or something like, I don't even remember where they actually were, but they were all places where people would recognise it, and we were so proud that they drink New Zealand beer in those places, so it became an advertising line. It was quite funny. It pops up in all sorts of videos. Right. So good. Jonathan saying, I did know that, but only because I used to work at the warehouse. My fave was the meat keeper, which sounds like the name of a demon. does sound like, just for this time of year and time, you know, go and get yourself a meat keeper. Yeah, no, Sistema is available at the supermarket. It's available, you can get lots of it from the Warehouse, which is that department store that's warehouse style that we have in New Zealand, all that sort of stuff, but we do export it around the world. And they do so many different sorts of things. So yeah, much as I'm not really into plastic a lot, there are some things plastic is handy for, and I'm okay with plastic if we keep reusing it. Single use, no. If it's something long term, I will try and use something more long term. So like, I'm happy using this glass drinking vessel. For the fun of it, I've got this, but I'm not going to throw these away. I'm going to keep using them, of course. You know, well, why wouldn't you? And if you are throwing something away that's rubbish, don't throw it out the window. Deal with it properly. You know, use your brains, people. Not you. I know you guys do it properly. So, eat snacks. We're talking snacks, aren't we? I'm doing my ASMR foodie sound things again. So these are the ones, plant-based gummies. Plant-based gummies. And I was really worried because, as you'll see, they are not wrapped. Each of them is just loose in the packet. They were done for Halloween because, you know, New Zealand, we're not really super big on Halloween, but, you know, something they can sell. So I came up with the glass jars and the plastic jars and all that sort of cute stuff. So I've been using this bag folded up in the bottom of my cauldron to just hold the other ones up high enough for me to get to without having to fill it completely full, because I'm not going to have people coming around getting lollies to my door just because we're out in the, not quite the middle of nowhere, but the place where I am, most of the kids, sorry, I'm just taking, there were some ants in here. I put it in the freezer to deal with the ants, okay, cauldron. From the Warehouse, and it had a couple of dents in the top, and it was the last one they had at our local. So instead of $5, it was $3. You know, you don't get if you don't ask. So this is my cauldron that I put my packing lollies in the bottom of, and then I put my other ones in the top, not in top. So I've got, you know, that, like the hearts and all those other bits and pieces, and then I've just been dropping these in the top of there too. So put those back up here, and Quest Sprout can look after them for me. I shall grab one little jar of, I'll get one of these because they're cute for now, and put the cauldron back. I've been trying to find little bits and pieces that might make the setup here, even though it can't be seen very easily. Oh, this is another chap who streams and does artwork. He does comic art. Matthew Wills does Swords comic. Look him up online. He's really does some really cool stories. Now, not all of his characters are quite as cute or innocuous as as Quest Sprout. Quest Sprout's lovely. In fact, Quest Sprout has his own Twitter account. It's run by a bot, but it's a good bot. If you interact with Quest Sprout will interact with you on Twitter. Go and do it. Check it out. So Quest Sprout, he says Quest, Q-W-E-S-T, when it's something he says, or it says. That's how Quest says it. Q-W-E-S-T, but his name is spelt Q-U-E-S-T, so look him up, Quest Sprout. Right, now I've got a few people here. Yes, we will get on to the third tip, and I know I didn't say anything about it last time, and I totally forgot, but there are people here, and I need to say hello on behalf of them to those who haven't met them before. So we have here, yes, we have Squibble, we have Jonathan, and do we have anyone else that I know here at the moment that I should have already said hello to? Good on you. Well done, Jonathan. Thank you for saying hi to everybody. Not a real dad. I haven't yet actually managed to catch you when you're streaming. But if you want to have a shout out at any stage, come and join the Discord server and introduce yourself to everybody over there, as well as saying hi in the chat here as well, obviously. And then you can, as long as the sort of stuff you do isn't too, people I shout out aren't necessarily going to stream the sort of stuff I do, obviously, because nobody streams the stuff I do as far as I know. But I don't auto host, and I know hosting's coming to an end. I don't auto host people because it's granny friendly here. And granny friendly is just the shortcut way of saying, we're not, your grandma's not going to get upset, or somebody else's grandma's not going to get upset by the content here. It needs to be a safe place for grannies with their grandkids. And usually I read stories which are ones that the grannies will be familiar with themselves, often from when they were growing up or reading to their own kids and all that sort of stuff. And so therefore I want them to know that there are places where they can actually share something that they are familiar with their grandkids, rather than just their grandkids sharing the things that are familiar with them with the grannies. Get it? Quite cool, eh? So not a real dad saying I don't stream myself but just chat when I can. No, that's cool. That's all good. You're most welcome. So it's my idea is basically just that if somebody is here and they're a regular streamer and they're happy for me to say hi and shout out, then I think it's reasonable to say, come and be part of the community. So we do need more grannies on Twitch. I'm not a granny. It's going to be a number of years yet before I'm ever a granny, but grey hair wise, I suppose technically I could be. I've got friends who are my age who are grannies. I don't think of myself as granny age. How could I be that old? You're getting older when that happens, but it started happening when I was a lot younger than this. Anyway, so we've done tips 1 and 2. Tip 3 is snacks. Is not snacks. Tip 2 is snacks. Tip 3, more wise grandmas, please. They've seen it all. They have too. I think it's great when they get involved with stuff and share what they know. There is a granny who streams games, and she is really cool. And she's got into it because she got given some gaming device and needed to just chill because of something that was going on in her life. And so she started streaming these games. I think it was partly as a way of getting connected, of sharing a connection with her grandkids. And then she started reviewing them and talking about the games as she was playing them and all sorts of things like this. And she's quite famous now. Really cool. So there are 1 or 2 grannies on who stream, but there's not a lot. And I think there should be more, because I think it's really awesome when people learn about more than just the world that they live in. So let's have more grannies as well as the younger ones, and just learn from each other, which is always good. So tip 1 was get drinks, tip 2 was get snacks, and tip 3 is get comfortable. So whether that's the most comfortable seat in the house, whether that's lying in a blanket fort underneath the table or next to the sofa, whether it's under the apple trees in the orchard, whether it's down at the cafe and you've got your earbuds in and you've got your coffee at hand and your yummy white chocolate and raspberry muffin or whatever, but get comfortable, because reading is about just relaxing and enjoying it. Okay, I've got an ASMR tag on my channel for when I'm streaming at the moment, just because I joke about the fact that I make all these noises and other people make noises and others want to go and listen to them. And I don't try to hide the noises of what happens when I'm on stream. So whether that's opening the fizzy drink bottle and it's going right by the microphone, or I'm opening up a plastic packet from the lollies or something like that, I don't try to hide that sort of thing, just like I don't hide who I am. My hair is weird. It does all sorts of things on its own. I don't bother with makeup these days. It's just like, why bother with that? I've got wrinkles. I'm not going to bother trying to hide them, because it gets harder and harder, and you're hiding who you are. You're hiding their life experience that you have. We don't need that. So get comfortable. I'm comfortable. Are you? I'm just getting my other lollies to top up that because my cauldron doesn't have many loose ones in. You go lurk, squibble, that's great. So that's the other thing for those who are new here. I do have a lurk command. If you don't want me to let others know that you're here or that you're lurking or anything else like that, don't use it. But if you're happy for me to say hi to you when you're heading off to lurk, or even reference you with what I'm doing later on, just make a comment to you or something like that, you're most welcome to say lurk, as in exclamation mark lurk. Not saying you have to, but it's just if you want to. Otherwise, do what Squibble's done. Yeah, here's the ASMR. Do what Squibble's done and just say that you're going off to lurk. Lots of noise. I bet that's loud. More skulls. I quite like those ones because they're kind of marshmallow. But you can see what I mean by they're in a sealed packet. The ants have not, well, our ants currently have not yet found a way to get into those. Thankfully. Don't want them to. Don't suggest it loud enough for them to. And we will have another eyeball or two. And some more hearts. Hearts. It's meant to be a blood pumping heart. Do we have any more feet? I'm a little disappointed with this packet. I thought there'd be more variety. It's meant to be a spooky gummy body parts. It's got the orange backed eyeballs, it's got the red hearts, and then it's got occasional feet. And that's it. It's like, okay, that wasn't exciting. So put these back. So Squibble's probably doing work at home. She works from home. She's an artist. And she's an awesome artist. That's why I gave you the link before. There is another streamer who was hoping to come by sometime, but they weren't sure when they were going to be able to. I'm just having a look in here. I like this one. I like the face on it. Let's try it the right way up. I like the face on it. Don't you think it's cool? I'll just find some in here that I can put in the jar. Some of them are hard and some of them are soft. Most of them are hard. Not my favourite. At the stage where I have to look after my teeth a bit better, and chewing on hard things isn't such a good idea. No, I'll leave those. I won't put any of those in because they're too tempting when they're there. Right, that's there. These ones I think are the ones I have to pull out when I've finished, because if I don't eat them, the ants will. These are the ones that are Swizzle's brand, and they're English. Trick or sweet. And so they've got a range of lollies that they normally do, but in different wrappers. So you've got Mr. Chew, you've got Refreshers, which are actually in a green and yellow wrapper, which you can't see the wrapper. And then you've got Fruit Pops, Drumsticks, which I think it's just because it looks, the lump on the end of a drumstick. Not chicken drumsticks, but the stick for drumming. Those are the Love Hearts, and then those are, it says double lollies, but they actually seem to be like a sherbet lollipop. They're quite nice, those. I'll leave those out so I can have some. I'm not putting them in the pot because otherwise I'll forget they're there and the ants will get to them again. I don't really want to have to keep putting it in the freezer. It's a pain. As in a nuisance. Right, so I've got my headbands in their box, if anyone redeems. I've got lollies, snacks. I've got drinks. I've got my chair that I'm sitting on, which is an office chair, because office chairs are often more comfortable than gaming chairs, because office chairs are designed for office workers to sit in for hours at a time doing things that aren't particularly fun or comfortable, and so therefore a good office chair will actually be not luxury comfortable but reasonably comfortable compared with some of the gamer chairs. They're really cool to look at, but once you've been sitting in them for more than about an hour or two, they're not that comfortable because the foam isn't quite hard enough or thick enough or whatever. Sherbet lollipops and fizzy lollies were one of my favourites from the dairy or the corner store, says Not a Real Dad. Absolutely. Cool. Just out of interest, what country are you from, Not a Real Dad? If you don't mind saying, you don't have to say. Obviously, there's nothing compulsory on this stream, ever. So if you don't want to share anything, you don't have to. Oh, I was going to put those in there as well. There. Okay, I will eat this sugared skull. Those ones have got a different texture for a gummy one because they don't use gelatine. They use one of the other ones, agar, which is a type of seaweed where they extract the gelatin from, jelly stuff from it, I think. Anyway, right. I've got my timers set up, all three of them. Well, one of them I have to maximise it once I've opened it. So Not a Real Dad says, grew up all over New Zealand but moved to Oz with family around 11 or so. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Totally makes sense. I did wonder when you said dairy. It's like that's Aussie New Zealand speak. We have certain names for things that we use all the time, don't we? Jonathan says, that reminds me of marshmallows. One day I'd love to try marshmallows made from mallow plant slime. That would be really cool to do and give opinions about how well it works. Yeah, rather than gelatine. So, sorry, itchy eyelid. Another tip for newbies here, recent visitors who haven't been here lots before, is that I have ADHD and I'm also on the autism spectrum. So that means that things distract me really easily. Like this, I mean, we've been talking for an hour now and we haven't even started reading. And this time I managed to get through all three tips without forgetting one. Last time I mentioned three and only actually explained two. And nobody pulled me up on that too, by the way. You guys are slacking, come on. So ADHD means I'm really easily distracted. Autism means that when I get my mind focused on something, we dive deep on that one thing. It's excellent for if you're trying to find out information on something that you're interested in. It's terrible for trying to find out information on something that you're not interested in all, because you will get so distracted by other things and then find those very interesting. But one of the other aspects is that, as you're seeing, one of the aspects of being on the spectrum that shows itself for me is like my nerves are turned up to 11. You've heard the saying, turned up to 11, right? That's above normal. It's a reference from spoof music movie. Can't remember the name. Sorry, I should know. So music amplifiers for guitars and stuff go from 0 up to 10, and guitarists always want things louder, and so there was a reference to being able to turn it all the way up to 11, which is, beyond where they can. So effectively, all my nerves are turned up really loud. So I tend to notice things that other people don't. Something will be gritty, something will be irritating me. I'll notice subtleties of flavour that, Spinal Tap. This is Spinal Tap, is the one. I will notice textures in my mouth, under my fingers, in my clothes, under my feet. There's certain sorts of socks I can't wear. There's certain sorts of shoes I prefer not to wear. All that sort of stuff. Yeah, you go and look, Jonathan. That's cool. Thank you for the assist on the words. All that sort of stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a picture which shows a clothes tag, but it's not a clothes tag, it's a cactus bush in the place of a clothes tag. Well, for some of us, that's what tags in our clothes feel like. And it's not that we're being silly, we're not trying to be oversensitive or fussy, we actually feel it more than most people. Now, one of the ways that shows for me is the fact that I get itchy. I always, if you stopped me and asked me, where are you itchy? I would be able to tell you at least 3 different places where I'm itchy. Any time you did that. I may have to pause and think about it because I'm able to tune it out a lot of the time, but not always. So when I am aware of an itch and that awareness is not going away, I have to do something about it. Otherwise, it will take all my focus and I won't be able to get words out straight. I will get lost with what I'm trying to say. I will not be able to finish a sentence beyond what I'm normally like. It's way more distracting than that. And because my whole brain is trying to focus on dealing with this itch, so the easiest way to do it is just, okay, there's the itch. We've just soothed it a little bit. Now we can carry on with what we're doing because it's just calmed it down a little bit. So there you go. I'm not being rude when I scratch, when I itch. That's just part of how life is for me. And that you may find that there are other people in your life, other people at work or in your family who actually have that sort of stuff going on, and nobody's ever realized that that's what's going on for them. Ask them in a positive, opening up, encouraging way. Not as a negative, not as you shouldn't do that, but just an awareness thing. You might discover something new. Right, drinks. Drink of water, drink a fizzy drink, and then we'll carry on. So, that's better. Yeah, you do actually, your throat starts to dry out a bit when you're talking all the time. So you've got to watch out that you don't. That's also why if you're at a concert, not a classical one so much but a rock concert or something like that, it's not just that they're getting sweaty and hot, it's actually like the singers, their throats, the extra sound that they're producing when they're singing is actually using up all the moisture that's in that part of their body, and you don't want to actually cause problems for your throat where you cause damage to it. You actually want to still be able to keep singing, so therefore you keep on topping up the water. It's just one of those things. Right, here we go. Let's have a read of something. Let's find out. Here's one we can read. And then I've got a New Zealand one I can read too. I did find some, and I remembered now where they were. I thought they were on my iPad. They weren't. They were on my computer. Right. Too hot. This is another one from More English Fairy Tales by Joseph Jacobs, I think his name was. Let's have a look. See if it tells me. Joseph Jacobs. I got it. Good. So he compiled them. He went round and collected up these stories. Some of them he's retold slightly, other ones are exactly as he heard them. But they are English folk tales, and they're often a little weird. So that's why I feel that they're appropriate for the week leading up to Halloween, because I'm not into horror. So let's do weird instead. Tattercoats. In a great palace by the sea there once dwelt a very rich old lord who had neither wife nor children. I'm just getting a bit closer to the microphone, sorry. It's not where I usually have it because we're keeping the space in front of me free for if I do any crafting. I'll try to get that far. Who had neither wife nor children living, only one little granddaughter whose face he had never seen in all her life. He hated her bitterly, because at her birth his favourite daughter died. And when the old nurse brought him the baby, he swore that it might live or die as it liked, but he would never look on its face as long as it lived. That's a bit mean, a bit nasty. So he turned his back and sat by his window looking out over the sea and weeping great tears for his lost daughter, till his white hair and beard grew down over his shoulders and twined around his chair and crept into the chinks of the floor, and his tears, dropping onto the window ledge, wore a channel through the stone and ran away in a little river to the great sea. And no, let's just put aside our understanding of scientific things and accept the story. We're not going to worry about food and bathroom breaks and all those things. Just accept the weirdness of the story and go with it. Here we go. And meanwhile his granddaughter grew up with no one to care for her or clothe her, only the old nurse when no one was by. Only the old nurse, when no one was by, would sometimes give her a dish of scraps from the kitchen, so she wasn't even looked after properly, like food and stuff. Would give her a dish of scraps from the kitchen, or a torn petticoat from the rag bag, while the other servants of the palace would drive her from the house with blows and mocking words, calling her tattercoats and pointing at her bare feet and shoulders till she ran away crying to hide among the bushes. Why is it that it seems to be inhumanity to pick on people for things that they have no control over? It just seems to be something we do, and I don't think we should. I think we need to change how we as people are in general. So it's not just individually, but when you are positive, when you're with a group of people that otherwise are not being positive, you help them to make a different choice. You help them to see that different choices can be made. Sometimes that's all that's needed. Sarsaparilla. Right. And pointing at her bare feet and shoulders till she ran away crying to hide among the bushes. And so she grew up, with little to eat or wear, spending her days in the fields and lanes, with only the gooseherd for a companion. A gooseherd is like a goat herd or a shepherd. Sheep herd, someone who herds geese. Only the gooseherd for a companion, who would play to her so merrily on his little pipe when she was hungry or cold or tired that she forgot all her troubles and fell to dancing with his flock of noisy geese for partners. But one day people told each other that the king was travelling through the land, and in the town nearby was to give a great ball to all the lords and ladies of the country, when the prince, his only son, was to choose a wife. One of the royal invitations was brought to the palace by the sea, and the servants carried it up to the old lord, who still sat by his window, wrapped in his long white hair, and weeping into the little river that was fed by his tears. But when he heard the king's command, he dried his eyes, and bade them bring shears to cut him loose, for his hair had bound him a fast prisoner, and he could not move. And then he sent them for rich clothes and jewels, which he put on, and he ordered them to saddle the white horse with gold and silk, that he might ride to meet the king. Oh! Meanwhile, Tattercoats had heard of the great doings in the town, and she sat by the kitchen door weeping, because she could not go to see them. And when the old nurse heard her crying, she went to the lord of the palace and begged him to take his granddaughter with him to the king's ball. But he only frowned and told her to be silent, while the servants laughed and said, "Tattercoats is happy in her rags, playing with the gooseherd. Let her be, it's all she's fit for." A second and then a third time the old nurse begged him to let the girl go with him, but she was answered only by the black looks and fierce words, till she was driven from the room by the jeering servants with blows and mocking words. Weeping over her ill success, the old nurse went to look for Tattercoats, but the girl had been turned from the door by the cook, and had run away to tell her friend the gooseherd how unhappy she was because she could not go to the king's ball. But when the gooseherd had listened to her story, he bade her cheer up, and proposed that they should go together into the town to see the king, and all the fine things. And when she looked sorrowfully down at her rags and bare feet, he played a note or two upon his pipe, so gay and merry that she forgot all about her tears and her troubles, and before she well knew, the herd boy had taken her by the hand, and she and he and the geese before them were dancing down the road towards the town. Before they had gone very far, a handsome young man, splendidly dressed, rode up and stopped to ask the way to the castle where the king was staying. And when he found that they too were going thither, he got off his horse and walked beside them along the road. The herd boy pulled out his pipe and played a low, sweet tune, and the stranger looked again and again at Tattercoats' lovely face till he fell deeply in love with her and begged her to marry him. My goodness, she just looks like a beggar girl. I hope it's not just because she looks beautiful. I don't like those guys. But she only laughed and shook her golden head. Good girl. You would be finely put to shame if you had a goose girl for your wife, said she. Go and ask one of the great ladies you will see tonight at the king's ball, and do not flout poor Tattercoats. Don't make fun of me. But the more she refused him, the sweeter the pipe played, and the deeper the young man fell in love. Ooh. Till at last he begged her, as a proof of his sincerity, to come that night at 12 to the king's ball, just as she was, with the herd boy and his geese, and in her torn petticoat and bare feet, and he would dance with her before the king and the lords and ladies, and present her to them all as his dear and honoured bride. So when night came, and the hall in the castle was full of light and music, and the lords and ladies were dancing before the king, just as the clock struck 12, Tattercoats and the herd boy, followed by his flock of noisy geese, entered at the great doors and walked straight up the ballroom. Straight up the ballroom, while on either side the ladies whispered, the lords laughed, and the king, seated at the far end, stared in amazement. What on earth is this going on? Excuse me. I forgot to turn my moonlight on for you. Hang on. There's the moonlight. And I forgot to turn on the only reason I've got these is for you guys. I'm not doing very well at remembering some things, am I? At least I remembered all the 3 tips, which is good. For once, I remembered them. Sorry, so it doesn't take up so much room or get damaged, I fold it up. So there you go. That one fit in there. Let's see. I'll just move these jars. I have these cute little glass jars. This one I like because it's the same as the top one. It's kind of like a little bit like an apothecary's jar, except I don't have the top for it because it actually came with an oil pourer. And the oil pourers are usually quite hard to get, and they can be expensive. Not that they need to be, but they often are. And so when I found these jars for about, I think they were $5 or less for 2 of them with the pourers, I thought, yeah, I'm getting that, because then I've got the pourers and I didn't need the jars, the little bottles. Here we go. Let's put Mr. Pumpkin there, and we'll see if we can prop up the moon. Oh, we can. It pokes out a bit, but I can get the moon bracket sitting on the shelf just enough that it stays there. I'll try not to bump it. Right, carrying on. Right. And say hi to Adelaide as well. I'm doing well remembering her name. Right, here we go. So when not got that bit. And the king seated at the far end stared in amazement. Sort of like, how dare they come in here? They're poor, they're beggars, all this sort of stuff. Why have I got people like that in my ballroom? What's going on? But as they came in front of the throne, Tattercoats' lover rose from beside the king and came to meet her. Taking her by the hand, he kissed her thrice, that's 3 times, before them all, and turned to the king. Tattercoats. Father, he said. I don't know why it's got Tattercoats, her name, on its own there. Maybe he said it. Father, he said, for it was the prince himself that she had met. Of course, we knew that, but hey, the story didn't. Father, he said, for it was the prince himself, I have made my choice, and here is my bride, the loveliest girl in all the land, and the sweetest as well. Before he had finished speaking, the herd boy put his pipe to his lips and played a few low notes that sounded like a bird singing far off in the woods, and as he played, Tattercoat's rags were changed to shining robes sewn with glittering jewels, a golden crown lay upon her golden hair, and the flock of geese behind her became a crowd of dainty pages bearing her long train. I wonder if that says something about the nurse or whatever she was. And as the king rose to greet her as his daughter, the trumpets sounded loudly in honour of the new princess, and the people outside in the street said to each other, "Ah, now the prince has chosen for his wife the loveliest girl in all the land." But the gooseherd, that's who it was, the gooseherd was never seen again, and no one knew what became of him, while the old lord went home once more to his palace by the sea, for he could not stay at court when he had sworn never to look on his granddaughter's face. So there he still sits by his window, if you could only see him, as you may some day, weeping more bitterly than ever as he looks out over the sea. He's missed out on so much because he decided, no, because the child was produced by my daughter and she died producing this child, I will not look at them. I will not look at her. And he missed out on that lovely person. There you go. Right, so moving some things. ASMR plastic bags, anyone? Or cellophane? Sweets. Let's see what this camera is going to do. I didn't give you a jigsaw, did I? Let's find a jigsaw puzzle. I'll go over to this scene. There's my other chat. I don't know why the other one isn't working. I'm going to find, don't put jigsaw in the thing yet. I'm going to find us another jigsaw puzzle to do for today. Oh, that's cute. We'll do this one. I'm going to find us another jigsaw so that can be running, and if anyone wants to do it, all you have to do is type !jigsaw, but not yet. I'll tell you when. Now interact. I will get this set up so that it is the right size. Let's go 112 pieces. It's got enough similarity that it could be confusing. Now just keep in mind, I don't know if you've played this sort of jigsaw puzzle before. This particular one, the jigsaw puzzle handler that I use, I've got it set so the pieces are not rotated. All you have to do is move them to the right place but keep them the same way up. So you don't have to worry about that. Now I shall put the link for that into... No, I'm in the wrong place. Sorry, looking at the wrong thing. Custom commands. Jigsaw, where is it? Come here, jigsaw. There it is. Put the link in here. And once I've done that, then you can do what I was just saying. Okay, that's in there now. If you type in !jigsaw or !puzzle or even !puz, P-U-Z, or even PZ or jig, J-I-G, all of those should bring up for you the jigsaw puzzle link. You click on the link, it'll take you to the website where you can do the puzzle, and it will show up here on over there. It'll show up there so the rest of us can see what's going on with the puzzle. There you go. Right. So I've got lots of stuff on my desk at the moment. You can see I've got these lollies here. I've got my other ones in the little special bon maman jar, jam jar. They are cute, and I like the shaping on them. They've always done them beautifully, and the jam jars are normally about that tall and about that wide, and they're a very solid jar. So the standard size ones, they are made in France and exported. Oh, there it is. I was wondering where the eyes were. So So I got as far as that. I did manage to get it unstuck from the cutting mat, and I need to stick onto there. These pieces actually poke out a bit. See? So this is where the eyes are on this face here, and they poke out a bit, so you can see like this. So that will actually give us some extra depth to them before I even get as far as putting on wires so they bounce around. Now, if anyone does want to redeem channel points, then you're still welcome to do that. I will move some things around again so that I can put my, not cutting mat, chopping board here. Put the chopping board here, which means that the hot melt glue gun can sit on it, and it's not going to melt the plastic of my desk. So now I just have to put that plug board up there so it reaches, and turn it on. Yes, the light's going. So that will take a few minutes to get warm enough. I have more glue sticks because we go through them pretty quick with this machine. Oops, now I'm throwing them around. Right, glue sticks, put those there. Actually, I'll just give you the link for the jigsaw puzzle. All you have to do... Hi, Coleslaw, great to see you. Good to have you here. So there's the jigsaw puzzle link for you. Great to see you again. Love it when you come in and I get to see you again. I hope everything's going well for you at the moment. Right. My brain's gone at me. Yeah, this is my keyboard shelf. I shall probably slide this under here. Actually, no, I usually put those legs. I don't fold those ones. It's when I'm doing something else that I fold them. Just so it doesn't fall off the back, because then I pull it forward and then I can get that out of sight. Did I miss the reading tonight? Mum got back from travelling and she doesn't wear masks, so it's been a stressful day so far. Oh, that's really hard when that happens. Yeah, I've got a family member who doesn't mask and has certain opinions about certain things that I find a little bit hard to work with. Yeah, so I've read one chapter. It was a story that was kind of a little bit Cinderella-ish, where you've got this little girl whose grandfather doesn't want to have, in this context. Yeah, same. The little girl whose daughter, the little girl whose mother died when she was born, and so therefore the mother's father had sworn that he would never ever look on her face, and she goes in rags along to the king's ball where the king's son is going to be choosing a wife, and he had already met her on the way there, but they didn't know who he was, and he had fallen in love with her. She was just dancing. The goose herd, the man who looked, the young chap who looked after the geese, had been playing his pipe, and she had been dancing, because she used to do that when they were at home. And so he had continued that. He had played his pipe, and she had danced and thoroughly enjoyed it. And this is when the prince had fallen in love with her. But we didn't know it was the prince. Well, they didn't tell us that it was the prince. And then it turns out that he was the prince. All that sort of stuff. So you'll get to listen to that if you want to afterwards in the brain words. In the VOD, if you do want to. So that's it. I am hoping to do another story read, and it will be a New Zealand one, because I remember you guys had been asking me to do a New Zealand one. I'm just trying to figure out which is the best one to do for that. Actually, I've got them online, but I've also got them on my computer. I had forgotten completely that I had found these ones when I was when you guys had been asking me if I would do any New Zealand ones as well. I'm just going to look for the particular, no, not that one. I think I put them into a wrong folder or something, but I did save them somewhere here. I know I did. Let's just see if I can find them. No, that's not it. I know I saved them. I can look at them. Oh, I might have done it on the laptop. Yeah, try and listen to it. Yeah, it's a sweet little story. It really is. It's quite sweet. It's not where I thought it was going to be, and it should have been. Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay, so I'll just read it from online. It's just that the other version I had of it, I could see just how long it was because it was the PDF versions, which you can download actually. I will give you the link for that. The website that they are on. It's called Fairytales, TALEZ.com, and the particular selection of stories are ones that are specifically New Zealand Māori tales. And they're based from New Zealand mythology. Some of them are ones that are written by one of the authors that I've read a book or two of, Edith House, the New Zealand lady. Good, that one's a shorter one. Yeah, cool. I'm just, oh yeah, that's dribbling away. I'll just get some tissue to catch the dribble. And I have baking sheet to put over my cutting mat so that loud machinery noise you're hearing is a digger outside. Do I mind? Yeah, I'll try and remember to put that in the Discord server later as well, that link for the Māori fairy tales. Technically they're myths and legends, but don't worry about it. I'm just reminding myself, by the way, that's not a comment at you or anything. I'm just going to get this mat, the cutting mat, because it makes it easier for... And no, I haven't scraped all the glue off the top of it yet. That will happen. You stay there, and you stay there, and you can look after this bottle for me with its moonstone beads. They're not real moonstone, it's the white glass that has that blue tone to it. I love those. So, cutting mat, blobs of hot melt glue are still on it. So what I have here is, get the lollies out of the way, and this is the ones, because you weren't here at the time, these lollies are ones that didn't come wrapped for Halloween, because most of our lollies are just in a big bag when you get them in a multi-pack at the supermarket or something. And because of our ants, I thought I can't just put them in the cauldron up there, because otherwise the ants will get into it if I forget to take them out of the container. I've already done that once and had to put the container in the freezer to kill the ants so that I could get the lollies out and then get rid of the dead ants. Are they edible ones? What, the ants? The lollies. The lollies are edible. Sweets, yes. Candy. So these are meant to be jelly-based pumpkin shapes. Yeah, they're not ornamental. That's orange. It's not my favourite colour for flavour. Anyway, so I put them in a whole lot of small jars. I'll put these ones out of the way. Yeah, they're really cute jars. They're actually French jam jars. And the company that makes them is in France. And these are like, it's almost like a sample-sized pot. The actual originals that most people are used to seeing, especially if you live in Europe, we had them in the supermarket, one of the supermarkets near us in England. The jars themselves are normally about this sort of, sorry, my overhead camera's up there, not where the other one is. So the jars themselves are usually about this sort of size, so they're the same shape as that, but they're wider and they're taller. And they've got quite a lot of jam in them, and it's really nice jam. So when I say jam, some people call it jelly, except that European jams, English jams, New Zealand jams don't have the fruit pulp and they don't have the seeds taken out. That's why they're jams, not jellies. So the brand name is Bon Maman. Bonneemaman. Bon Maman. Good mother. And but you can get these in little multi-packs at Christmas time, and also some posh hotels when you get breakfast, if you're having toast, your jam will come in one of those, and it will be a brand new jar, and you're allowed to take the jar with you. But they're cute jars. And Squibble uses them for storing some of her paint powder in. I like them. They also do really nice marmalade. That's one of the things they do. I think the last set of those jars I got, there were 5 or 6 of them in the box, and I got it specifically because it had marmalade in the mix. Marmalade is jam made with oranges or grapefruit or lemons. Okay, so if you see something called orange jam, it's actually marmalade, and usually marmalade also has some of the skin in it. And it adds to the texture but also the flavour. It's got a level of bitterness that you normally wouldn't have in modern jams. But the bitter stuff is actually usually, the bitterness in there represents something that we commonly don't have in the modern diet, and it can actually be something that's quite healthy. So there you go, silicone based cooking paper, baking paper. We'll stick a couple more eyes on here. And then I've got another one which doesn't properly represent a rainbow, but it's got lots of rainbow colours on. It was the nearest I could find for materials to do it. I really wanted to do a proper rainbow, but it's a little bit hard to do when you can't find the right stuff for it, without having to go, down to the city or something like that. And I'll show you in a minute what that one is, and then I'll get back to reading the next section, which is the New Zealand story. And the story that we're going to be reading next is called Magician's Magic. I'll just get some of these out instead of all of them like I did last time, and I'll try not to rattle too much once I've got them out. Right, that'll do. I don't know how many I'm going to use. We'll see how we go. I like putting them up this way, just having these eyes looking at you. So let's just put some on. Actually, I wonder if I can just get enough heat from the tip into there. That's not bad actually. A little bit of heat just from the tip of the glue gun. Let's put one of these big ones on there without actually having to squeeze any more glue out. There you go. So that one's going to look upwards a bit more. Stargazy pie, anyone? Do you know what stargazy pie is? One of the channels that I watch sometimes on YouTube when I can't sleep is Sorted Food. It's a bunch of English guys and they're friends from school. And one of them's a chef. Sometimes 2 of them are chefs. It just depends on if they've got another one of their friends there. He's not always there now. He does other work, has another job. And 3 what they call normals. And yeah, are you talking about Sorted Food, or are you talking about the jars, or are you talking about the eyes? Not a real dad. And by the way, do you have a preference for how I shorten your name? So Sorted Food, they do all sorts of different sort of theme programs each when they're doing their videos. So they'll do one where it's reviews of cooking products. Another one will be Sorted Food. Yeah, no, that's cool. Oh, now I've gone and stuck it to my fingernail. I thought that was safer than my skin. So let's see if I can get the upper end of this poking the other way. Big blob. So every now and then they'll do foods that they've never come across before, and they did one recently, unless it's just that I didn't know about it. That was English foods that the that the guys hadn't actually come across before. And I mean, they're English, so they kind of expected, especially having friends who are chefs, to have come across them all. But there was some odd... Stop it! I went and put my finger on hot glue. Not too hot, thankfully. But still. So tasting history with Max Miller is a bit more on the edutainment side, but also fun. Yeah, so I love the reviews of old kitchen equipment, like really old kitchen equipment. Occasionally they will do one where it's a series of recipes from a really old cookbook. They'll do ones that are focused on different cultures, foods from different cultures. It's entertaining. You learn a bit of stuff. You also discover ingredients that you think, oh, I must have a try of that, or a food that you think, oh, I wouldn't mind trying that sometime. I'll leave that to cool down a bit. I might turn that one off too. I'll add extras to that along the way, but not necessarily today. So this English one of the things was stargazy pie, which is basically sprats, like small baby fish, and they're cooked in a pie, and when you cook them in the pie is like it's got a pie crust base, and then it's got a filling in it, and that sets probably a little bit like a Yorkshire pudding type of base around it, or actually no, more like toad in the hole, which is meant to be like Yorkshire pudding, but it's not, it's softer. Anyway, and so these fish are put in the pie looking up. So they're looking up like this. When you bake them, they're like these baked fish, these little faces all looking up like this. And they're called stargazy because they're all looking up at the stars. And the guys hadn't come across it before, and I was just so amused. As soon as I saw it, I knew exactly what it was. I was like, stargazy pie! And I haven't had it because I can't stand fish, but I knew what it was. So obviously I've got a different range of reading experience, if nothing else, than what these guys have got. Anyway, so lots of fun things to do when you're watching YouTube because you haven't anything else that you want to do. So, how's this? Is this going to be suitable for a representation of a rainbow for this stage? I will try to get some other colours into it when I have access to them, but this was the most rainbowish ribbon thing I could find at the time. I couldn't find rainbows. I could not find separate ribbons that were curly ones. I could not find stickers that had rainbow. I can't believe it. Couldn't find stickers that had rainbows on or anything like that. And so I thought, something like this on top of a headband, because it will sort of bounce around like that, would be quite cool. So let's find another headband. What was that? Oh. Something behind me is going clunk, clunk. I must have dropped more than one glue stick. Headbands, empty headbands. I need an empty headband. Empty headbands, the ones we glue things on. And I don't want one that's got letters that poke up, because that's for things that don't have any depth or height themselves. So, what one's going to work for that? Oh, these, I think. Oh, let's do the rainbow one. So, hearts. So this is actually a series of rainbow hearts, but I don't use them as a redemption because unless I go like this at the camera, you're not going to see them. So I like them, they're cute, but they don't do anything. So what we do is we'll take this off here. It's just a parcel. sticker, and we'll put this on. We'll throw this over here to the recycle bin. Didn't make it. Anyway. Peel off backing, press firmly to package. And it's got a cut mark there, which I'm going to guess is where you're meant to peel off the backing from. And this looks like it's actually the main bit that's got the sticky on it seems to actually be a solid piece of plastic instead of a flimsy piece of paper, and so the sticky itself may work better, because some of them don't. I will actually see about adding extra somethings to this when we get that far. And this one should be nice and easy to make, because we should wrap this around here. Yep. Stick that on one side. That should work a bit better. Sorry, I'm folding this around and sticking it down and getting to stick it to itself. And then later on, if I find that that's not holding well enough, I will find a way to add glue to it. So how does this work? Does it work as a cluster of kind of rainbowy bits? Yeah, I know the green's not going to show up well. I'll swap to the other camera so you can see. It kind of works, doesn't it? What I will do is I'll add purple to the mix. I will add grey. I will add black. I will add white. I will add brown if I can find something for it. It's a little bit hard to do because we're a welcoming family. We are. So there you go. We got one finished. Got one finished. So let's put that there. That one's finished. And see how this glue is going, and then I might read you a little bit more. Oh yeah, that's cooled down enough to take the strings off the back. It's a pity I can't actually remelt the excess glue and poke it through the hot melt glue gun again. Might be cool. Yeah, the green, I forgot about that. Yeah, me too. It's a bit of a nuisance. At some stage when I finally get over to my alternative setup, I probably won't be green screening all the time. The only thing wrong with that is that I like being able to put something there and have it technically behind me so I can point at it. Like, not like I can't do here, but I can do here, where I can have something that's here and point to it or whatever, or put a picture up. So that's where I like the uses of the green screen. So this is actually coming up a little bit better now. We've got, I'll put it that way so it looks more normal for you. It still kind of looks a little bit tiara-ish. We'll get there sometime. But we're getting a little bit more depth here because they're layered now. And I'll do some more here, maybe put some that are a bit more behind. We'll see how we go. So that one can sit there. I'm going to have a bit of a read of the next story, and then we'll have a think. If there's still enough time, I don't know, we may actually do some more. I really wanted to do lots and lots of lovely crafty things with you guys, but I also want to read the story, so it's like a bit of a balancing act. No, I don't want that. Right, so here you go. Here's the jigsaw, and I shall open up my, no, I won't open up my, I've already got it open. I will bring my browser window over here. No, I don't want that maximized, you silly ninny. Sorry, not me, ninny, but the computer being a ninny. And why do you not let me scroll? How odd. Nope, not going to. It's an odd, no, now it's resized. Didn't look like it was. Some things just don't work quite the way you expect them to. You think something is going to resize suitably, and it doesn't. So this is called The Magician's Magic by Edith Howes. who is the author that we had for The Sun's Babies, which was a little bit odd, but then I'm not used to ones where each chapter is a completely different story with a different style to them. But that's okay. We'll see how we do. Right, so The Magician's Magic by Edith Howes, and it's a Maori story, and she retold a whole bunch of Maori tales and legends. Just so because they were from an oral tradition, the Maori people didn't have their own written language. As far as I know, I don't remember ever having found out about one. But so what would happen was that the visitors, the settlers, the explorers would transcribe what they were saying and hopefully have someone handy who also was able to translate. So they were written down as they wrote the words as they sounded to them, which is why we have some variations on place names too. So, The Magician's Magic by Edith Howes. Ruarangi's wife was so beautiful that the fairy king fell in love with her and carried her off to his fairy city. That's a little bit awkward. It's someone's wife. There he said a charm that caused her to forget her former life, her husband, and her home. When Ruarangi came home at night to find his house empty, his beloved wife gone, his grief was terrible. After a fruitless search, he went to a magician. "Find out where my wife is," he begged. "What will you give me for my services?" asked the magician. Half of my crop of sweet potatoes. Now, we don't call them sweet potatoes, we call them kumara, Kumara. And usually it's a particular variety of them, but we have a much wider variety available now. Half of my crop of kumara. Good, I will find her. He made his magic ring and looked through his magic eyes. "Your wife is in the city of the fairy king," he said at last. "The fairy king has set a charm to make her forget you and her home. You must go to the fairy city for her. I will say a spell that will cause her to remember everything when you appear." He said the spell. When he had finished, he said, "Take red ochre with you to rub on your wife's skin. The fairies will then be powerless to touch her." Ruarangi set off, taking red ochre with him. So red ochre is a particular type of clay powder that's used as a base for paint as well, by the way. Sorry, I need a drink. And I need to put something there because that's... I did turn that off, good. Ruarangi set off, taking red ochre with him. After many days of travelling, he reached the fairy city, a quaint cluster. Oh, actually, I should probably be back on the other screen, shouldn't I? Because I'm not actually doing anything on that one. The fairy city, a quaint cluster of peaked houses built on a flat-topped hill. He climbed the hill and walked through the city, but houses and streets were empty. No fairy was to be seen. Ruarangi's beautiful wife walked on the sports ground with the fairy king, watching with idle eyes the racing, jumping and throwing of the fairy people. Suddenly, as Ruarangi's foot touched the empty fairy city on the neighbouring hillside, the magician's spell did its work. In a flash, her memory came back. "My husband, my Ruarangi," she thought. "What magic has bound me? I must escape." Two fairies wrestled on the course. The king and all his people watched with eager interest. "I wish to speak to your brothers behind us," she said to the king. He nodded permission, his eyes on the performers. She turned and walked downhill, stopping but a moment to speak to the king's brothers. So she told the truth. Once out of sight, she hurried on, meaning to escape. Passing through the fairy city, she met her husband looking for her. "Ruarangi, my husband, take me home," she cried. Ruarangi's heart sang for joy. He rubbed red ochre on her face and neck, that no fairy spell should overtake her. Then he took her home. When they reached their country, a great feast of welcome was given by their friends for joy at their safe return. On the sports ground, the fairy king waited for Ruarangi's wife. When she did not return, he sent a messenger for her. The messenger brought word that she had gone on to the city, from the Sportsfield Hill to the city, the other hill. "It is well," said the king. "She rests. She has but mortal strength." When the sports were over, the fairies all went home, but she was not in the city. No clue was left but the prints of footsteps down the hill. The king examined the footprints. "They are those of Ruarangi and his wife," he cried. "He has dared to enter my city and take her from me. He shall be punished. She shall return. Bring the army together with all speed. In 3 days we march on Ruarangi's city." For 2 days the fairy army prepared their weapons and exercised themselves. On the 3rd day they marched for Ruarangi's home, the fairy king at their head. Through the land the alarm was spread by swift-footed messengers. "The fairy king draws near with his army. Prepare for war," Ruarangi commanded. "There is no need," said the magician. "There is a better way." "Tell us," said Ruarangi, "what shall I receive for helping you?" "The other half of my crop of sweet potatoes." "Well, what shall I receive for helping you?" said the magician. "The other half of my crop of sweet potatoes." Oh dear, he's not going to have any sweet potatoes left. Hopefully he's a very smart man and there's a little twist to this tale. I'm just going to see if we have a translation for his name. Large or big or robust or stout. So he's a strong man. Because often in fairy tales, characters are named after... Oh, I didn't turn on the jigsaw puzzle for you. So much for that. Pfft. Jigsaw. There you go. So it's available. Often in fairy tales, characters will be named after characteristics. "The other half of my crop of sweet potatoes," said Ruarangi. "Good, then listen to my words. You cannot fight the fairies. Their magic power would render you defenceless. But there are 2 things against which they have no power: red ochre and the steam of cooked food. Smear yourselves, your fences and your houses with red ochre. Cook food and set it steaming on your posts and roofs. Thus the fairy army will possess no power to harm you or your homes." Oh, this is not a solution I've heard before. So Coulson was saying, "I had part of an orange sweet potato today and last night." Yum. We don't have them as a side dish at Thanksgiving with marshmallows on top because they are sweet enough, just a by the by. But roasted with roast lamb for dinner is so yummy. I'm just going to see if I can find a picture of a colour or no, not that one. Something that I can show you a picture of red ochre. Here we go. This one will probably do it. Save image as. Don't know that one's going to work because of this file type. This will probably work better, and then we can carry on with reading. Yes, that one works better. Now I will just find you this picture in here, not where I've no, don't do that. There. Sorry, my computer is just like, oh, let's ping this over there. No, let's not. And we shall find the picture. And open it. And resize. And put it up here so you can see. maybe not. Okay, let's put it somewhere else. There, that way you can see it. So, as you can see, it's ground up and it's this colour. It's often used in traditional personal ornamentation, like on skin and stuff, like kind of like a war paint can be one of the uses, but it's not all of the uses. So Coles was saying nothing fancy. There's so many different ways you can have them, but they're really yummy. I like them. They're actually meant to be very, very healthy, and they don't cause people's blood sugar to spike as quickly as what potatoes do. And they've got a higher fibre content. So you put red ochre on your houses and your fences and your sills, and you cook your food and set it steaming on your posts and roofs, and thus the fairy army will possess no power to harm you or your homes. The people listened and obeyed the words of the magician. While the men rubbed red ochre over everything, the women cooked great quantities of food and set it steaming on the posts and roofs. With a loud battle cry, the fairy army drew up in front of the waiting city. A gust of hot steam answered them. The crimson glow of red ochre flashed on their dismayed eyes. Magic! They cried in consternation. They turned to fly. The fairy king stood forth and called them to endure it. I will overpower their magic, he said. Standing in front of his army, he began to chant an incantation that should remove the paint and food. His fairies, listening, took courage to endure the horrid glow and stifling steam. But the magician, hearing the king's words, sprang to the gateway of the city and chanted a spell to make the paint and food remain. More and more loudly they sang, each trying to out-chant the other. Meanwhile, the paint and the food did not move, a sign that the magician's power was stronger than the king's. At last, the fairy king realized he was beaten. Turning, he gave orders for retreat. The fairy army marched away, never to return. Ruarangi and his beautiful wife were saved by the magician's magic. And it doesn't say anything else after that about the food. I was wondering if Ruarangi only actually had a certain amount of sweet potatoes and his wife had all of the rest, and so therefore they wouldn't be going without. I don't know. That's just one of those quirks of storytelling. Sometimes they will resolve something like that. Now let's just see if we have any other stories here written by any of the other authors. Because there are other authors, not just this one New Zealand author. And if they're if they're not too long. Ochre, yeah. It does kind of sound like they're talking about ochre, but it's ochre, O-C-H-R-E, instead of O-K-R-A. Oh, that's a really short one, but it's not actually, it's by the same author. We'll see how it goes. So I'll read this one, it's an extra one. So Tiki by Edith Howes, it's another Māori story. Tane gazed on red clay that lay exposed. Tane, sorry, not Tane. I think. Hang on, I'm just going to check this. I do not want to say it wrong. Because we have people in New Zealand called Tane and we have people in New Zealand called Tane. And I want to check the right way of saying it. I just need to listen to make sure I've got it right. Like I say, it's a name that's done both ways, and because it's a Māori story, I want to get it right for the story. Tane. Tane. Right. Turn off the sound so it doesn't disrupt too much. Yeah, have you ever heard yourself in a recording? You don't sound like what you think you sound like. What you sound like in your head is quite different to what other people hear. This is a cute squishy. Snow cloud, they called it. No, this is not the snow cloud one. This is the glow-in-the-dark one. The plastic on the outside, the rubbery stuff glows. Right. Tane, Tane gazed on red clay that lay exposed where the earth had fallen from a cliff. Red, the sacred colour, he said. This is probably red ochre. And earth from which all things grow and flourish. Surely from this I can make something greater than anything I have yet attempted. So Tane is one of the early characters in Māori background, Māori history, Māori legend. Hang on. In Māori mythology, Tane is the god of forests and of birds, and the son of Ranganui and Papa Tuanuku, the sky father and the earth mother, who used to lie in a tight embrace where their many children lived in the darkness between them. And Tane did a whole lot of different things. So he was part of the forming of New Zealand, of the earth as such. Right. Surely from this I can make something greater than anything I have yet attempted. He gathered the red clay and worked it with his hands, kneading it and fashioning it into a shape like his own. When the shape was made, he breathed into it his own breath. Slowly, life went into the figure, and it began to breathe as if in sleep. Just reminding you what I was reading to you before about who he was. His father is the sky father, and his mother is the earth mother. So technically he's a god or a demigod. There you go, which is why he can do this. And began to breathe as if in sleep. Tane stood chanting a life-giving song. The limbs received their powers, the eyes opened and saw the world. The shape arose and walked. It was Diki, the first man, whose heart and all inner parts were red as the clay from which he was made. Tane, invisible, watched the man walk with dazed and wondering eyes across the barren plain where he had lain, toward the forest trees where birds were singing. Invisible goddesses floated through the air to look at this new creature. He will need a mate, they said, from the sunshine that quivered on the trees and the echo that wandered through them. The goddesses wove a fine mist, which limb by limb they shaped into a woman. They sent her out to meet the man, and he was lonely no more. The two lived together in the Earth Mother's garden, and from them have all the men and women come that live there to this day. Tane went to live in the shining sunrise land, beside the lake of glowing light. So Tu was left master of the garden, for he alone of the 6 giant brothers was left. Ever since, the men and women who live there have received good things from 4 of the brothers, from Tane's trees, wood for boats and houses, fibrous leaves for ropes and clothing, from Rongo and Haumea, roots and berries, from Tangaroa, fish, but from Tu they received an evil gift, for he taught them the art of fighting. Yet, strange to say, they worshipped him more than any of the other brothers. They made him their god of war, and since then, peace has left the earth. There you go. That's the end of that story. Goodness gracious me. Now, it's after 5 o'clock here. I'm not going to continue today, but on Monday, since Monday is actually All Hallows Eve, also known as Halloween, we will do some more. We shall do some more folk tales, whether they're English or Māori or other New Zealand ones, and hopefully we'll do some more headbands with things on them to do with what we're doing. So we'll see how we go. And if you have any suggestions on anything like that, please go and write them over in the Discord server, which I've given you the link for. You can, I think you guys can pull up that link. I always thought you could. Maybe you can't. I don't know. Here's the link. I'll give it to you anyway. Hi, Arinel. Great to see you. I'm sorry I didn't say hi to you earlier on. You were probably there. So here's Arinel's link. Oh, thank you, Coastal, for putting in the link for the Discord server. So yeah, if you've got any suggestions, any questions, anything that you just randomly want to know about, that you think might be connected to any of the things we talk about here or New Zealand or whatever, come and talk about it over in the Discord server. I will try and remember to put the link for these current stories. I think that's what I was going to put in there, wasn't it? The link for the current set of stories, the Māori fairy tales, over in the Discord server too, so you can have a read through more of those if you want to. I'm just scrolling back through the chat to see if that's what it was. Yes, it was. Adding it to the Discord later. Yeah, that's the one. So that would be really cool too. It's a great way to just sort of find out about more things from other cultures, other places, other histories. So I don't know if you're very familiar with the Christian creation tales. There are parallels in lots of different cultures between their creation stories. So we have aspects of that here with Tane creating the man and breathing life into him, and the need for a mate, a partner, someone to keep him company, and that sort of thing. Evil arriving, I suppose, things like that. So it's always fascinating to find out how different cultures have actually put into their own background aspects of this sort of stuff. So there you go. That's it for today's story time. Yeah, a reminder to share the link over there. You're most welcome. I'm saying that, as a response to people saying thank you. I love having you here. I love being able to share different stories from different places and times, and looking forward to doing more of that too. So we'll see you next time, and no, I am not going to be raiding once again. Naughty. I really should be actually getting myself sorted for some more people that I can raid. I just don't necessarily have a bunch of people that are appropriate. You will still be able to do the jigsaw on the link even if you can't see it here, so you'll all be able to see the jigsaw where on the actual site that you're doing it from, and I will still be able to see it because I've still got it open somewhere I've got it open, I'm sure. Whatever. Anyway, so I'm going to finish now and say thank you very much for being here. Thank you for letting me read to you and share some crafts and some lollies. And I didn't stick anything to the table this time, so that's good. And I'll see you next time. In the meantime, happy reading. Bye.